The missing delegation. The Galactic Summit Hall was a place of order and power. The great leaders of the galaxy sat in their designated places, each representing their species. The hall was massive, carved from a planet-sized space station, floating in the center of neutral space. Today was an important day. The most powerful civilizations had gathered to discuss the future of the galaxy. Treaties would be signed. Disputes would be settled. Alliances would be formed. But as the meeting began, something felt wrong. One seat remained empty. The seat of humanity. At first, no one spoke about it. The humans were known to be unpredictable. Maybe they were late. Maybe they wanted to make an entrance. But as the minutes passed, whispers spread through the hall. Where are they? The representative of the Varnix Empire, a reptilian species, clicked his claws against the metal table. The humans were invited, yes. A robotic voice from the central AI confirmed. Yes, humanity's delegation confirmed attendance 1 cycle ago. The council leader, High Chancellor Vornak of the Zortil, adjusted his robes, trying to keep control of the meeting. Perhaps they were delayed. A ship malfunction, perhaps. The ambassador of this Skar Dominion, a race of insectoid strategists, shook his head. Unlikely. Humans are punctual. If they planned to be here, they would be here. More whispers, more unease. Then suddenly, a distress signal interrupted the meeting. The screen in the center of the hall flashed red. An emergency transmission was coming through. It was from Epsilon 7, a human colony world. The council representatives leaned forward as the transmission crackled to life. A human officer appeared on the screen. His face was expressionless. Behind him, the colony looked normal. No fires, no war, no signs of attack. Yet his voice was cold. We knew this day would come. A silence fell over the chamber. The decision has been made. We leave you now, and what comes next is not for you to decide. Then, static. The transmission cut out. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the room erupted in chaos. What does this mean? Was that a warning? Where did they go? The council leader raised his voice. Send a scout fleet to Epsilon 7. Immediately. We need answers. The Varnix representative growled. What if this is a human trick? A deception? But deep down, everyone felt it. This was not a trick. Something was very, very wrong. And soon, the entire galaxy would know the truth. The scout fleet emerged from hyperspace, engines humming as they approached Epsilon 7, one of humanity's major colony worlds. The planet floated in the darkness of space, its blue oceans and green continents untouched. From orbit, everything looked normal. But something was wrong. The fleet's commander, Admiral Jorek of the Skar Dominion, narrowed his many eyes as he scanned the surface. Where are the human ships? He muttered. There were no patrols, no freighters, no defense fleets. The massive orbital stations, usually filled with activity, hung silent, dark, lifeless. The bridge crew felt uneasy. Scanning for life signs, one of the officers reported. A long pause. Then the result appeared on screen. No human life detected. The crew stared in disbelief. Jorek's mandibles clicked together. That can't be right. The planet should have millions of humans. They sent landing teams to the surface. Shuttles descended, gliding over vast cities. Cities that should have been filled with noise, movement, life. Instead, the streets were empty. Shops stood open, untouched. Vehicles were abandoned in the middle of the roads. A half-eaten meal sat on a table in one of the restaurants, as if someone had vanished mid-bite. There was no destruction, no signs of war, no bodies. It was as if the humans had simply disappeared. The search teams moved through homes, offices, factories, all the same. Everything remained perfectly intact. But there were no humans. Jorek watched the reports come in, his exoskeleton shivering. What happened here? Then, a tech officer shouted, "Admiral, we found a transmission, a final message." The crew gathered around as the message played. A human governor appeared on the screen. His expression was calm. "We knew this day would come." Jorek's claw tightened on the console. "The decision has been made. We leave you now, and what comes next is not for you to decide." The message ended. A cold silence filled the ship. Jorek turned to his officers. "We need to report this to the council now." The fleet jumped into hyperspace, carrying a truth that would shake the entire galaxy. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. Every representative from every major species shouted over one another, their voices filled with confusion and fear. The news had spread across the stars. Humanity was gone, but no one knew why. The Scout Fleet's report was undeniable. Human worlds had not been attacked. They had not fallen to disease or war. They had simply vanished. Their cities stood untouched. Their ships remained docked. There were no signs of forced evacuation, no messages asking for help. And yet, there were no humans. Chancellor Vornak slammed his fist against the table, his scaled face twisted in frustration. "We need answers. Did they flee? Were they taken? This is impossible." The Varnik's ambassador hissed. "We searched every human colony, every station, every settlement. The result is always the same, empty. This is not a normal evacuation. They left suddenly, and they left without a trace." A representative from the insectoid, Shker, clicked his mandibles. "No species can disappear overnight without leaving behind evidence. There are no escape pods, no refugee ships. Nothing." A holoscreen flickered to life in the center of the chamber. It displayed the final message found on Epsilon 7, the last transmission from a human world before they went silent. The human governor's face appeared once again, his voice calm and unwavering. "We knew this day would come. The decision has been made. We leave you now, and what comes next is not for you to decide." The message ended. Silence followed. This was no accident. This was planned. A nervous murmur spread through the hall. The humans had been powerful, but they had never been reckless. If they had abandoned their worlds, there had to be a reason. The representative of the Celleri, an ancient and secretive species, stood slowly. Their kind rarely spoke at council meetings, but when they did, their words carried weight. Their voice was deep, almost like a whisper traveling through time. "Fools," the Celleri ambassador said. "You celebrate their absence. You think this is an opportunity. You do not see what has happened." The chamber fell silent as every eye turned toward them. The Celleri's glowing eyes darkened. They have not fled. They have not fallen. Humanity has done what no species has ever dared. A cold chill passed through the room. The Varnik's ambassador scoffed. "Then tell us, Celleri, what do you think has happened?" The Celleri exhaled slowly, their tendrils shifting. "We must consult the ancient records." The Galactic Council watched as an ancient database, older than most civilizations present, was accessed. The Celleri archives were considered one of the greatest historical treasures in the galaxy. Their kind had recorded everything, from the rise and fall of empires to disasters lost to time. The holographic records flickered, revealing something few had ever seen. A prophecy, a warning. "The Great Departure," the Celleri ambassador read aloud. "A time will come when a species, more cunning than any before it, will walk away from the stars before the storm arrives." The council representatives leaned forward, eyes widening. "They will leave silently, without battle, without war. They will disappear without a trace. And when they are gone..." The room seemed to darken as the next words were spoken. "The sky will burn. The stars will scream. And those left behind will beg for mercy." A heavy silence filled the air. The Scare representative's mandibles twitched nervously. What does that mean?" The Celleri turned their glowing gaze toward the gathered leaders. It means humanity did not run. They prepared. They knew something was coming. Something beyond war, beyond conquest. Chancellor Vornak's throat felt dry. And they left us here, to face it alone. The Galactic Council chamber was silent as the realization sank in. Something was coming. Something terrifying enough that humanity, one of the strongest and most stubborn species in the galaxy, had chosen to leave everything behind rather than face it. And now, they were gone. But the rest of the galaxy, they were still here. And soon, they would find out what humanity had been running from. The galaxy was on edge. The disappearance of humanity was no longer just a mystery. It was a warning. The prophecy found in the HFY archives had sent a chill through every major civilization. They will leave silently, without battle, without war. And when they are gone, the sky will burn, the stars will scream, and those left behind will beg for mercy. Was this just an ancient myth, or had the humans seen something coming? The Council had no answers, but the galaxy could not wait in fear. Chancellor Vornak ordered an expedition fleet to search the void beyond the known star systems. Perhaps humanity had left a trail. Perhaps they had fled beyond the edge of the galaxy. The fleet, led by the Zortil flagship Honor's Spear, launched into the unknown. They searched abandoned human colonies, scanning for warp signatures, hidden transmissions, anything that might explain where billions of humans had gone. But space was silent. Days passed, then weeks. No signs of war, no wreckage, no distress beacons. It was as if humanity had never existed. Then, on the 22nd day, the expedition fleet received a signal. It was faint, buried beneath layers of interference, but the pattern was unmistakable. Human technology. The fleet followed the signal to an uncharted system on the outer rim. What they found there shook them to their core. A planet, once thriving, was burned to ash. The land was scorched black, the oceans had boiled away, and the surface was littered with unidentifiable wreckage. This had not been a human world. It belonged to the Huidran Dominion, a minor but peaceful species. Their homeworld had been here. But now, it was gone. The expedition fleet detected no survivors. The Honor's Spear's captain, Admiral Korath, ordered a deep scan of the wreckage. The results terrified them. The energy signatures did not match any known weapon in the galaxy. It was something else. The only thing they found intact was a single data probe, buried under layers of debris. When the crew activated it, a holo message played. It was from the Huidran leader. His face was bruised, his breathing was ragged, and his eyes were filled with terror. They came from the dark. We did not provoke them. We did not fight them. We begged for mercy, but they did not answer. They do not speak. They do not negotiate. They simply consume. The message glitched, static distorting his voice. Humanity was right. They knew. They tried to warn us, but we ignored them. Now it's too late. A sound in the background, a low, inhuman shriek. Then silence. The transmission ended. The fleet was frozen in place. This was it. The answer. Humanity had seen this coming. Whatever had destroyed the Huidran homeworld was what they had feared, and humanity had not stayed to fight. They had left. Admiral Korath's claws clenched the edge of his command chair. Send this to the Council. Now. The transmission was relayed instantly. Across the galaxy, governments and military leaders watched the Huidran leader's final message. Fear spread like wildfire. The Council convened an emergency session. Is this a rogue faction? A new species? Someone asked. The HFY ambassadors shook their head. Their voice was hollow. No, this is what the prophecy spoke of. Chancellor Vornak felt a deep weight settle on his chest. He turned to his military advisors. How do we prepare for something we don't understand? No one had an answer, because the only ones who knew the truth were gone. And soon, the rest of the galaxy would face what they had run from. The galaxy was no longer debating why humanity had left. They knew now. The Wydran homeworld had been erased from existence, and their final transmission had sent fear rippling through every species. Something was coming, something the humans had seen first. And instead of fighting, they had left. The Galactic Council held an emergency war summit. Every species with a fleet, every ruler with an army, had gathered to discuss one thing: survival. Chancellor Vornak stood before them, his voice tense. We must assume the worst. This unknown force wiped out the Wydran Dominion without warning. If we do nothing, our worlds may be next. The Varnik's ambassador, his reptilian eyes narrowed, slammed his fist on the table. Then we fight. If humanity ran, it means they were weak. We will stand our ground. Murmurs of agreement filled the chamber. The Varniks were a warrior race, and many other species had built their empires on conquest. But then the Cell-Airy ambassador spoke. Their ancient race had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. Their voice was calm, cold. You misunderstand, the Cell-Airy said. Humanity was never weak. They fought wars on every front and won against impossible odds. If they left, it means the battle was already lost. A chill passed through the room. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, a deep voice rumbled through the chamber. Then we must find them. Every head turned toward the speaker, Grand Strategist Kaller of the Skar Dominion. The insectoid general tapped his claws against the table. Humanity is the only species that has faced this enemy and survived. If they truly ran, then they know more than we do. His many eyes glowed in the dim light. We must find them before it's too late. The room erupted into debate. Their worlds are empty. They have no colonies left. They could be anywhere. Chancellor Vornak raised a hand for silence. Then we must look where no one has dared before, beyond the outer rim, into the void. A silence fell over the chamber. The void, the dark space beyond the galactic edge, was unexplored, feared. Ships that ventured too far never returned. It was said to be a graveyard of lost civilizations, a place where even the most powerful empires vanished without a trace. But if humanity was hiding, if they had found a way to escape, that was where they would be. A new fleet was assembled, made up of the most advanced ships from every major species, the best navigators, the strongest warriors, the most brilliant minds, all chosen for one mission: find humanity. The fleet launched into the void, leaving behind the safety of known space. Behind them, the galaxy held its breath. Because if they did not return with answers, then there would be no one left to return at all. The expedition fleet moved deeper into the void, farther than any known species had ever dared. The darkness of space stretched endlessly before them, silent and watchful. There were no stars here, no planets, just the vast emptiness where light itself seemed to die. The fleet's leader, Admiral Korath of the Zortil Empire, stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the void through reinforced viewports. His crew was uneasy. Even the battle-hardened warriors of the Shire and the relentless Varnik soldiers seemed tense. Something about this place felt wrong. "We've been traveling for weeks," said his second-in-command, a Cell-Airy navigator. Their voice was quiet, almost reverent. "If humanity is out here, they are either hiding very well, or they are gone forever." Admiral Korath didn't answer. He refused to believe that. Humanity was out here. They had to be. Then, suddenly, a signal. It was weak, buried beneath layers of interference, but it was human. The fleet adjusted course, following the faint trail through the void. Then they saw it. A station. It was massive, hidden inside the wreckage of what seemed to be an entire dead solar system. Broken planets, shattered moons, and the remains of destroyed fleets floated like tombstones around a single, still-active human facility. It had no identification codes, no distress beacons, just a quiet, pulsing signal, an invitation. The fleet approached cautiously, scanning for life signs. There were none. Admiral Koreth ordered a boarding party. Warriors from every species stepped onto the abandoned station, weapons ready. Inside, everything was intact, but empty. Power still flowed through the systems. The air was still breathable. The lights flickered, casting long shadows in the empty halls. It was as if the station had been waiting. Then, in the control room, they found it. A message. It was a simple hologram, glowing faintly in the dark. The moment they activated it, the face of a human appeared. The council members, watching from the fleet, held their breath. The human spoke. "If you are seeing this, then you finally understand." The voice was calm. Too calm. "We did not run. We did not flee. We prepared." The fleet's officers exchanged nervous glances. "You still don't see it, do you?" The human tilted his head slightly. It was never about fighting. It was never about war. We had already lost the moment we realized what was coming. A static buzz filled the room for a moment. Then the message continued. "You thought we were gone. But we were never gone. We simply moved ahead. And now, you are where we were." The hologram flickered. The human's face darkened. "If you are here, then it is too late for you." A sudden alarm rang through the station. The entire structure shook. Outside, the void came alive. A shape moved in the darkness. Massive, silent, watching. The stars did not scream, but the fleet did. The void itself seemed to twist and shift as something moved. Something massive, something old. Admiral Koreth barely had time to react before the station's alarms blared louder, their tone changing to a warning. An urgent final message. The hologram flickered again, and the human's face returned. His eyes were cold, filled with something deeper than fear. "You wanted to find us, but you never asked why we left." The station shook violently. The fleet outside was already in chaos. Ships scrambled to reposition, weapons powered up, but there was nothing to shoot at. Nothing visible. Then, from the darkness, came movement. The sensors screamed with warnings. Energy signatures unlike anything ever recorded spiked across the fleet. The void itself seemed to unfold, revealing them. There were no ships. There were no fleets. There were only shadows. Shifting, crawling things that defied logic, form, and physics. Their presence bent space. Their shapes flickered between dimensions. They were not life as the galaxy understood it. They were something else. And they were hungry. The first fleet ship to react, a Askar battleship, fired its plasma cannons into the darkness. The energy vanished as if it had been swallowed. The ship was next. A black tendril, impossibly vast, reached out of the void and wrapped around the battleship. It didn't crush it. It didn't destroy it. It simply pulled it into nothing. The ship's distress beacon went silent instantly. Admiral Koreth's eyes widened in horror. "Retreat. Now, get us out of here." The fleet turned to flee, engines flaring to life. But the void did not let them go so easily. The creatures moved without moving, shifting through space in ways that defied understanding. Ships vanished one by one. No wreckage. No explosions. Just gone. On the bridge of his ship, Koreth gritted his teeth. Jump now. The fleet's warp drives activated. They tore themselves away from the void, just barely. The survivors tumbled back into known space, their ships damaged, their crews shaken. And behind them, in the darkness, the things in the void simply waited. The Galactic Council received the report, the footage, the data. There was no debate, no more arguments, no more denial. Humanity had not run because they were weak. They had left because they understood. And now, the rest of the galaxy did too. Because the only thing worse than knowing what was out there was knowing that it had finally noticed them.